The title of Duke of Rothesay and the other Scottish titles which I've had the honour to carry for so long, I now pass to Catherine.
Britain had endured royal departures, family betrayals, and constitutional storms before, but nothing prepared the country for the words delivered from Buckingham Palace. King Charles had made his decision. Archie and Lilibet, the grandchildren living thousands of miles from the institution into which they were born, would be removed from the line of succession. It was not a warning, a negotiation, or a temporary measure. It was a final act carrying consequences across 2 continents. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles sat behind his desk and read the final wording twice. The announcement would end Archie and Lilibet's constitutional place within the crown. The line of succession, the legal order deciding who may inherit the throne, was more than a ceremonial list. It carried royal identity and national continuity. Removing 2 children meant breaking a bond established at birth, and the king knew Britain would not see this as paperwork alone. The monarch kept one hand on the document while an aide waited. Charles knew the words would wound his son, yet he believed succession could not survive as an empty inheritance. After reading the phrase, "future service to the crown" again, he raised his eyes and said, "Release it." The wording referred to responsibility and exposed his argument. Constitutional privilege had to carry service. Harry received the message at home and assumed there had been a mistake. He read Archie's name, then Lilibet's, and his face changed. Meghan asked what had happened, but he lowered the phone. She repeated the question and watched his shock harden into anger as he told her both children had been removed. This was not reform. It was a judgment placed upon 2 young lives. William faced the same words inside a palace room. The future king accepted an advanced copy, paused at Lilibet's name, then folded the paper. He asked whether Harry had been informed. An aide confirmed that a message had been sent, but the prince heard something colder beneath the answer. A constitutional review, an official examination of royal rules and consequences, had brought advisors and officials behind closed doors. The decision had been prepared long before the public heard it. Now attention shifted from palace machinery to the people carrying its cost across the nation. A grandfather who had chosen duty and a strange son staring at betrayal, a mother fighting anger, and 2 children too young to understand what had disappeared from their future. 3 to 3 minutes, but behind the constitutional language were 4 lives bound by blood, distance, resentment, and a family wound that had never truly closed. To the public, Archie and Lily were names printed beneath princes and princesses in the order of succession. To Harry, they were his children. To Meghan, they represented a future she had fought to protect. And to Charles, they were grandchildren he barely knew, living reminders of a son who had walked away. The announcement was constitutional in form, but its true force landed inside a fractured family where every title concealed a private ache. Harry entered the children's room, carrying a silence heavier than anger. Archie sat absorbed in a book, while Lilibet played nearby, unaware that strangers across Britain were already debating their future. The Duke watched them for several moments without speaking. His eldest son had been born while he and Meghan were still working members of the monarchy, meaning they represented the crown through official duties and public service. From birth, Archie had carried expectations linked to the House of Windsor, the royal family's historic dynasty. Now, those expectations had been removed without him understanding they had ever existed. Lily's place carried a different kind of pain. She had been born after the Sussex departure, far from palace life. Yet her name connected her directly to Queen Elizabeth II, whose private childhood nickname had carried deep meaning within the family. Meghan understood that connection. She also understood how quickly royal affection could be separated from royal authority. Meghan asked whether Charles had called before the statement was issued. Harry shook his head and admitted that only a formal message had arrived. Her sadness hardened immediately. She said the king had discussed Archie and Lilibet like entries on a constitutional list rather than grandchildren with feelings, identities, and futures. He did not defend his father. He looked back toward the children and said the worst part was knowing they would one day discover exactly how the decision had been announced. Charles had wrestled with that same fear. The monarch had repeatedly questioned whether keeping the children in the succession would preserve family unity or create deeper confusion around two young people being raised entirely outside royal service. The order of succession was not simply a ranking of relatives. It was the official sequence determining who could inherit the throne. To him, allowing that position to remain without any connection to duty risked turning responsibility into symbolism alone. William's part remained hidden. He had known the review was underway, but no palace account revealed whether he encouraged the removal or simply accepted his father's authority. Catherine found him standing alone at Windsor with the statement still in his hand. She asked what troubled him most. The future king answered quietly that Archie and Lilibet would eventually read every word. That fear pointed toward an earlier moment, one the family had kept buried, a private ceremony where two absent children became impossible to ignore. The final announcement had begun with signatures and legal language. But the true point of no return came during one deeply uncomfortable family ceremony. Months before Britain heard the announcement, a private ceremony inside Windsor Castle exposed the contradiction at the heart of Archie and Lily's royal future. Their names remained in the succession, yet their lives were unfolding far beyond the crown's reach. What began as a carefully managed family occasion became the moment Charles could no longer avoid the question: could children inherit a constitutional position without inheriting any relationship with the country, duty, or institution behind it? Charles had spent months examining what succession should mean in a modern monarchy. He understood the difference between being born into royal history and being prepared to serve if extraordinary circumstances ever pushed that history into reality. The succession, the legal order determining who may inherit the throne, carried duties as well as status. Palace advisors warned him that Archie and Lilibet's positions would become harder to defend as they grew up abroad without royal education, public responsibilities, or direct ties to British national life. The silence came during a private family ceremony marking the anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's accession, the date she formally became sovereign. A formal family roll was read aloud, naming relatives connected to the crown and its future. Archie's name came first, Lilibet's followed. Both children were absent. Yet two places had been reserved to acknowledge them symbolically. No one spoke when their names echoed through the room. The king looked toward those empty places, and the contradiction became painfully real. Charles approached a senior advisor after the gathering had ended. He asked whether the monarchy was preserving a genuine family bond or merely maintaining an illusion on paper. The advisor did not answer immediately, and that hesitation disturbed him more than any direct warning could have done. William found his father before leaving Windsor. The future king chose his words carefully, saying the succession could not remain separated from responsibility forever. He did not demand that the children be removed. He did not mention Harry with anger. Yet the prince's warning forced the monarch to consider what delay might create: future uncertainty, deeper conflict, and two young people carrying constitutional expectations they had never been prepared to meet. Harry later learned through a documented private briefing that his children's absence had been discussed after the ceremony. Fury overtook him. He told Meghan that Archie and Lily were being judged for a distance they had not chosen, while she answered that the family was turning adult failures into a burden for children. The next morning, Charles commissioned a sealed constitutional memorandum, an official confidential paper examining royal authority and its consequences. Its central question was brutal. Should succession remain automatic when any realistic path toward service had disappeared? When Harry discovered that the review began immediately after Windsor, he demanded to face his father without advisors standing between them. The empty places at Windsor had started the review. but it would take a confrontation between father and son to transform private doubt into an irreversible decision. There were no cameras, no public statements, and no advisors seated between them when Harry finally faced Charles. Only a father, a son, and a polished table carrying years of unspoken anger. Harry had come to defend Archie and Lily's future. Charles had come prepared to defend the crown. Yet beneath every constitutional argument was a more painful accusation that each man believed the other had placed personal choices above the family they once claimed to protect. Harry had returned to Britain after learning that the succession review was no longer an informal palace discussion. He demanded a private meeting and rejected the suggestion that secretaries should attend. The review, the official process examining whether Archie and Lilibet should retain their places in the order of inheritance, had already moved toward a final recommendation. He understood that once the language became law, outrage alone would not undo it. Charles entered, carrying the sealed constitutional memorandum. The king wanted his son to hear the reasoning directly, yet the document in his hand showed how narrow the path had become. Harry asked how removing 2 children could possibly strengthen a family. His father answered that the monarchy could not promise constitutional roles to people being raised with no expectation of serving Britain or understanding the duties attached to the crown. Harry's restraint collapsed. He said Archie and Lily were being punished because he had left royal life, even though neither child had chosen the distance between California and Britain. Charles looked directly at him and insisted that their worth had never been questioned. The decision, he said, concerned the future his son had chosen for them, a life outside the institution while still demanding permanent constitutional privilege within it. Harry pushed his chair backward and stood. He demanded that Charles speak as a grandfather instead of hiding behind the authority of a sovereign. The monarch removed his glasses slowly and placed them beside the memorandum. He admitted that being their grandfather was exactly why he had delayed the decision for so long. Every month of hesitation had been an attempt to find a path that preserved both duty and family. Charles then offered one final possibility. Archie and Lilibet could maintain a defined connection to Britain through regular family contact, time with their grandfather, and a future understanding of royal responsibility. Harry heard control rather than compromise. He accused the palace of trying to reach his children through constitutional pressure, while the king warned that connection could not exist only when titles were at risk. The meeting ended without agreement. Harry reached the door, believing the decision could still be challenged. Charles stopped him with one final sentence, refusing every connection while demanding every constitutional privilege could not continue indefinitely. Their private conversation ended with neither man yielding. And beyond that closed door, the machinery capable of changing the succession was already moving. Royal power rarely announces itself with raised voices. It moves through sealed folders, carefully arranged meetings, and sentences refined until emotion disappears from the page. While Harry fought the decision as a father, Charles was being asked to act as sovereign. Around him stood advisors, lawmakers, and the future king, all aware that removing 2 names from the succession could not be treated as a private family punishment. It had to be presented as institutional necessity. Charles's personal declaration formed the heart of the announcement, but his signature alone could not complete the change. Constitutional advisors began preparing the legal and parliamentary pathway, the formal process through which royal rules are examined, approved, and recognized by the state. The palace framed the decision as part of a wider principle. Succession rights should remain connected to Britain, public duty, and a genuine willingness to serve the crown. Without that link, advisors warned, inheritance could become privilege without responsibility. William entered the late briefing, carrying the silence of someone who already understood the cost. Charles asked whether history would remember the decision as cruelty. The prince did not answer quickly. He said history would judge whether they protected the monarchy without forgetting that 2 children stood beneath every line of constitutional language. His words offered no comfort, yet the king needed their honesty. Charles admitted that Archie and Lilibet might grow up believing their grandfather had rejected them. His voice faltered before he studied it. The monarch then signed the authorization permitting the announcement to move forward. For one brief moment, the pen remained motionless against the paper, as though he still hoped hesitation could create another choice. William reread the final memorandum. As heir, the person expected to inherit the throne after the current sovereign. He carried a duty to protect the institution's future. Yet Harry remained the younger brother he had once defended, guided, and trusted. The future king knew his silence would be treated as approval, even if no public sentence ever carried his name. The final document contained one crucial limit. Archie and Lilibet would retain their family identity and personal titles for the present, but they would lose any constitutional expectation of inheriting the throne. Charles had also rejected a harsher proposal that would have removed every remaining royal association. He wanted a boundary between family and crown, not the total eraser of two grandchildren. That distinction looked careful inside the palace. Outside it, the meaning would change within minutes. Once the declaration became public, legal precision collapsed beneath human anger. Harry would see punishment. Meghan would see rejection. And before the palace could explain the difference, the consequences were already reaching California. Charles believed he had drawn a careful line between family and crown. But when the decision crossed the Atlantic, that line vanished beneath an immediate wave of fury and grief. The announcement required only minutes to travel from Buckingham Palace to California, but its emotional impact was instantaneous. Phones began ringing. Messages arrived from friends, lawyers, journalists, and relatives. Yet inside Harry and Meghan's home, the loudest moment was the silence that followed. Two names had been removed from a centuries-old order, and suddenly every sacrifice the couple had defended was being weighed against what their children had lost without ever being asked. Meghan refreshed the palace website and watched the official page change. Archie and Lilibet's names had disappeared from the succession list. The public record showing the legal order in which members of the royal family could inherit the throne. That empty space was the first visible proof that the declaration was no longer just words. She stared at it, closed the laptop firmly, and told Harry that the family had turned blood into something conditional. Harry's advisors called within minutes. They warned him that attacking the decision publicly could deepen the feud and make reconciliation almost impossible. Silence carried its own danger. If he said nothing, the palace explanation could define the children's future and leave the world believing their removal had been accepted without protest. The Duke listened, but every option sounded like surrender. Harry blamed himself. He said his departure had handed the monarchy the argument it needed, and Archie and Lilibet were now paying for choices they had never made. Meghan rejected that immediately. She reminded him that they had left to protect the children from pressure, exposure, and a life controlled by royal expectation. Protection should not have cost them recognition inside their own family, she insisted, and the king should have understood that difference. Charles received the message while sitting alone. It contained one sentence: "They will remember who made this decision." The monarch read it twice and placed the phone face down. He had expected fury from his son, but the words struck at his deepest fear that Archie and Lilibet would one day know him first through the act that removed them. The Sussex team prepared a forceful statement accusing the institution of directing punishment toward children. Harry read the draft and stopped before approving it. He understood that releasing those words would place Archie and Lilibet at the center of an international battle, turning their names into weapons before they were old enough to speak for themselves. His anger demanded action. His instincts as a father demanded restraint. Catherine called before the statement could be released. She had contacted Harry privately without palace approval, and she did not defend the removal. Instead, the princess asked him not to let adults exchange the children's names like ammunition. He nearly ended the call, but something in her voice made him pause. As statements were drafted and anger hardened on both sides, one quiet call cut through the machinery of conflict, and forced Harry to confront what his children truly needed from him. For the first time since the crisis began, no constitutional expert was listening, no palace secretary was taking notes, and no public statement waited for approval. There were only two people speaking as family. Catherine had watched William carry the weight of the decision and knew Harry was preparing to answer pain with fury. Her call did not reverse what Charles had done, but it changed the question from how the Sussexes should fight back to what Archie and Lily should inherit emotionally. Catherine asked Harry for 10 minutes before he approved the statement prepared by his team. The draft condemned the king's decision in uncompromising language and accused the institution of using two children to settle an adult conflict. Harry agreed reluctantly. She had rarely contacted him directly during the family breakdown, and the fact that she called without William, advisors, or palace approval suggested concern rather than strategy. Harry remained guarded as the princess began. She told him that Archie and Lily would one day search their own names and discover every accusation exchanged during the crisis. The children would read headlines, statements, and bitter words long after the adults had forgotten the anger behind them. She asked whether he wanted their first understanding of this moment to be shaped by their father's fury. Harry said silence would feel like abandoning them. He could not allow the crown to remove their constitutional place and then control the story of why it happened. Catherine understood his fear, but she answered that defending the children did not require trapping them forever inside the same royal battle from which he had tried to free them. The line of succession, the official order deciding who may inherit the throne, could change without determining their human worth. Harry's voice softened. He admitted that his deepest fear was Archie believing something had been taken from him because of his father. The Duchess had tried to reassure him, yet the guilt remained. Catherine told him that Archie and Lilibet would be shaped more by the love they received at home than by the position their names once held on a palace list. She said Harry still controlled the emotional meaning his children would inherit. Catherine then revealed what William had shared during a private family conversation. Charles had rejected a proposal to remove every remaining title and had insisted that personal contact with the children remain possible. The disclosure did not erase Harry's anger, but it weakened his belief that the monarch wanted complete rejection. The king had drawn a harsh boundary, not closed every door. Harry withdrew the aggressive statement in its place. He authorized a restrained response, declaring that Archie and Lilibet's dignity, identity, and future would never be determined by constitutional rank. His decision changed the atmosphere, but it could not silence the judgment gathering beyond palace walls. Harry had chosen not to answer the crown with open warfare, leaving the nation to decide whether Charles had protected the monarchy or wounded two innocent children in its name. By morning, the decision no longer belonged only to the royal family. It filled television studios, railway platforms, newspaper stands, and conversations outside palace gates. Some saw a sovereign imposing overdue clarity. Others saw a grandfather allowing constitutional duty to fall upon two children. Yet, one image captured the argument more powerfully than any expert panel. The official succession list, newly shortened, with Archie and Lily's names simply gone. Broadcasters interrupted regular programming as historians compared the crisis with earlier moments when private royal conflict had reshaped the monarchy itself. Constitutional succession, the legal order determining who may inherit the throne, was no longer being discussed as a distant rule. It had become a public argument about duty, family, and whether children should carry consequences created by their parents. Supporters of Charles insisted that succession required a living connection to Britain. Critics answered that Archie and Lilibet had never chosen distance from the crown. A major London newspaper captured the fury with 3 words across its front page: the names removed. Childhood photographs of Archie and Lily appeared beneath the headline, while a smaller image showed Charles signing the declaration. The contrast was brutal. One picture represented royal authority. The other showed 2 children too young to understand why their place in history had disappeared. Outside Buckingham Palace, a small crowd gathered near the gates. One woman placed 2 white flowers beside the railings and told a broadcaster during a recorded street interview that the children might not understand today, but they would understand one day. Her words spread quickly because they expressed what legal experts could not. The decision might protect an institution, yet its emotional cost would eventually reach the people named within it. Charles watched the coverage in silence. A broadcaster called the announcement the loneliest decision of his reign, and Camilla noticed him lower his eyes when Archie and Lily's photographs filled the screen. The Queen Consort told him the palace clarification had to be released immediately. He agreed, but the king knew careful wording could not erase the image already fixed in the public mind. William faced the anger during an official engagement. A man in the crowd called out, asking whether Archie and Lily were still family. The prince paused before answering, "They will always be family." His reply traveled faster than the prepared palace statement because it sounded human rather than institutional. The palace soon clarified that the decision concerned constitutional rank alone and did not sever the children's personal bond with the royal family. Public fury softened into reflection, but one final question remained. What meaning would the family give this wound? The world had delivered its judgment in headlines and voices, but the final meaning of the decision would be determined in private by the family members forced to live with it. In the end, Archie and Lilibet lost a place in the succession, but they did not lose their names, their family, or the right to define themselves beyond the crown. Charles's decision closed one constitutional path with unmistakable finality. It also exposed the painful truth the monarchy had avoided for years. Royal inheritance could no longer exist entirely apart from royal responsibility. The verdict was historic, but its deepest meaning was human rather than legal. Charles completed the formal constitutional process, and the palace confirmed the outcome without hesitation. Archie and Lilibet were removed from the line of succession, the legal order deciding who may inherit the British throne. Their positions would not be restored through silence, delay, or private negotiation. The monarchy presented the change as a permanent link between succession and service, requiring preparation, residence, and an active relationship with the British state. It was not described as a judgment on the children's worth, but the king understood that legal explanations could never remove the emotional wound. Charles wrote a private letter addressed to both grandchildren. The monarch explained that the crown had demanded one decision, while being their grandfather remained a separate promise. He did not ask for forgiveness. He asked only that Archie and Lilibet read his words when they were old enough to decide what relationship they wanted with him. The letter carried no public defense because he knew affection proved through publicity would mean nothing. Harry received the envelope and refused to release it. He placed it inside a secure drawer and told Meghan that the children should choose for themselves whether they ever wish to open it. She agreed, recognizing that this decision finally belonged to Archie and Lily, rather than palace advisors, parents, or angry headlines. Archie later asked why so many people had been calling. Harry knelt beside him and said adults were discussing royal history, but nothing had changed about who he was or how deeply he was loved. The Duke's answer could not restore a constitutional place. Yet, it gave his son something the crown never could: certainty without conditions. William met Charles privately after the announcement. The future king said the decision might protect the monarchy's structure, but reconciliation would require actions rather than palace wording. His father accepted that judgment without defending himself. The king had preserved the principle that succession carried duty, but the cost was a permanent mark on his bond with Harry and proof of how fragile the family beneath the institution had become. Archie and Lilibet's futures no longer depended on a throne they were never being prepared to inherit. Their lives belonged to them, free to accept or reject whatever connection Britain might offer. The royal list had changed forever. The constitutional argument was settled, and 2 children stepped out of the crown's shadow, not erased from history, but finally released to write a future entirely their own. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next video.